Welcome to this episode number 5 of the Road to the ProcureTech Cup for 2025. I am your host, Joël Collin Demers, your digital procurement mentor, editor-in-chief at the Pure Procurement newsletter and consulting principal at Pure Procurement. We have a really cool show for you today with Market Dojo, who's going to join me to demonstrate their e-sourcing capabilities and their source-to-pay capabilities as well. And so let's bring them on here. We've got Louis Barnard from Market Dojo and David Smith, both responsible for strategic sales. Thanks so much for being here, guys.
Hey, Joel. Yeah, thanks for having us.
So just if we go to the presentation here, just so people know what to expect in this next half hour. We're on the road to the ProcureTech Cup. The journey continues. Last week we had Axia on the show. This week, episode 5. Market Dojo, as I just mentioned, and we've got 22 more demos every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time so this right time slot until we get to March next year, and we'll run the ProcureTech Cup tournament on LinkedIn Live and on LinkedIn in general with different posts. So that's what we're a part of here. And the agenda for today is really Louis and David are going to give us an overview of what Market Dojo is all about, their unique value proposition, ideal customer profile for the solution. Then we'll jump straight into a solution demo, try to get at least 15 minutes, if not more, right? Depending on how the other sections go. And then we'll map it to the Pure Procurement ProcureTech market map, just to give you from week to week. We try to show you what the scope of the solutions we're looking at are with a set of common definitions. So, and we'll get there in a second here. So, Louis, I'll bring up your screen here so that we're able to get the show started.
Perfect. Thank you, Joel. Yeah, hi everyone. Pleasure to kind of have the opportunity to do this. So thank you, and hopefully we can be entertaining and show you some quite funky things over the next 25 minutes or so. So who we have on the call? I'm Louis Barnard, one of the senior strategic sales guys here. I've been with Market Dojo for about 8.5 years. I've probably seen us move from what I call a tactical sourcing system to a strategic sourcing system to a source to contract provider and now to a source to pay provider. And what I'm really hoping I can show you in the next kind of 20 minutes or so is some of that functionality that we haven't lost. We're still key to our core principles, but have gone into some quite interesting spaces in that strategic sourcing side. And I'm joined by David Smith.
How you doing? Nice to be on the show, and good to be joined with you, Joel. Yeah, my background is B2B tech, and fintech, and working into ProcureTech as well. And it's been a really exciting journey. I've been not as long in the tooth as Louis with Market Dojo. I've been on board for around 2 years, but I've seen really fantastic change and growth in that time. And some really kind of leaps and bounds, kind of moving the product forward in terms of what the market's looking for, what our customers are looking for, and how the whole of Market Dojo is geared around that and has continual investment into the product. So it'd be great to showcase some of those and highlight some of the features and investment we've had over the last couple of years.
Very cool. And I hope you'll pardon any martial arts jokes that I make along the way, because I might be tempted, to the extremes here today.
We welcome them, Joel, but just, don't ask us where the name comes from, because that's the number one question we usually get. So, we'll save that for another day.
All right.
Perfect. So, a bit of background. Appreciate there's many e-sourcing providers out there, although I do think we do a couple of things slightly differently. So a bit of context. So we're set up by procurement people. I don't think that's unique in itself, but where we've really tried to focus is on user adoption. We kind of think we've got the key functionality that any or every e-sourcing system can have, but we do it maybe in a slightly different manner. And one of the things in which I think is testament to that is the speed in which we can deliver value. So you could, if you wanted to, go to marketdojo.com now. You could hit on a button to sign up for free, and you could go into our sandpit or sandbox if you're a US audience, and start playing around with the full functionality of the system. You could then invite some pretend suppliers, test out your sourcing event, and if you really wanted to, you could buy a license on your credit card and launch that tender or auction this afternoon. In my time at
we've rolled out this story a few times, Louis, but yeah, the UAE company that jumped in over the weekend, and by the time we came back on a Monday, that was a really positive story. I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, so I think probably 10, 20 examples now in my time here, but there's been a zero-touch sales approach. So yeah, that very much. We came to work on a Monday a few years ago. Person had found us on Google, signed up, bought a license on their credit card, and had run their first auction before we even kind of came back to work. They actually ended up running like 30 auctions in 30 days and saved a couple of $1 million of savings on the result of it. But as testament to the easy use of the product, I don't think there could be a much better use case than you don't even need to speak to someone at Market Dojo if you don't want to.
Yeah, I find that's really cool, but it doesn't mean that you can't do that, right? Like you could still have the complex sales process and
of course, yeah,
right. But
yeah. Hopefully, as we go through this, I'll be able to make that distinction between this is tactical, kind of easy to implement system versus this is actually more strategic sourcing. We want to transform our upstream procurement activities and how we can have an impact there. The other thing we have on that kind of rapid time to value is the on-demand model. So someone compared to us as the Netflix of e-sourcing recently, which is quite a nice way of putting it. But there may be people on the line who have access to run auctions or sourcing events. Maybe it's in their ERP and it's maybe slightly more challenging to do so. We can be that bolt-on or extension to that system as a standalone product. Again, remember a few years back now, but a tier one automotive firm had been trying to set up their auction in one of those larger ERP providers for quite some time and just couldn't get it to where they wanted to do. They found us, we worked with them. Within a couple of weeks, the auctions had been run and they saved a ridiculous amount of money on that auction. So yeah, low risk, easy entry is something which does distinguish us on that on-demand side. What we tend to see is about 60% of clients then go and buy more from us because we've delivered the value, delivered the ROI, and are ready to make that next step into probably digitizing their upstream procurement.
Very cool. And what type of customers does that usually look like?
Yeah, it's very mixed. And I had a solar panel company that was relatively small do an auction last month on demand. We signed a Fortune 10 organization up in the last year, FTSE 100 companies. So it doesn't have to be small. We kind of do punch above our weight a little bit. I think for me, I think the important thing is if you want to digitize the process, if you can run that tender via email, then there's definitely a way in which you can use our system to do that. And actually, the size of the company isn't usually the thing that makes the impact. It's usually the maturity level and where they are on that kind of digital journey.
I was going to add to that as well, as in with the on-demand model, as you say, as in that appetite to kind of and use it as a turnkey. They come in, they deliver the value, and then they scale with us. And we'll talk more about this in terms of the wider kind of S2P proposition and the integration there. But where we've seen real traction is literally that they'll come in with sourcing, they'll deliver significant savings, and it will essentially, part if not all fund the S2P investment and streamline that digitization. So it's a real good turnkey for us in terms of we grow with those businesses. And they scale and deliver the value alongside that partnership.
Yeah, with a self-funded model, right, which is the dream, and as far as ProcureTech goes, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the other thing I just want to shout out, and they're a huge resource for us, is just that support team. So we quite uniquely provide live chat support. The average response time is about 9 seconds. So if you want support and you need help, we're more than just that tech company. We have the expertise, but we have the support mechanism for both buyers and suppliers, so you're not left on your own. And it's a real nice way to kind of help with that change management initiative that your users aren't going to be sat there thinking, where do I go? Who do I go to for help? It's there right in front of them in the system, and they can get help almost instantaneously. And
they're real human beings rather than chatbots.
Yeah.
Which is now something we have to highlight, right, in the last couple of years. So that's very cool. All right, so I'm wondering if it makes sense to dive into the demo in the next couple of minutes here as we I see the clock ticking.
Sure. Yeah, of course. I'll skip ahead a few. I think, this is just kind of what I wanted to rate, and then this will lead on to the demo. So we can help with that full maturity scale. So I said you might be kind of at the first stage, wanting to make that leap for the first time. That's a real kind of key market for us because of the intuitiveness and simplicity of what we can do. The change management process doesn't have to be really large. You can use us on demand. You might be slightly ahead of that curve. You maybe want to bring some elements of automation in, templating, strategic weighted scored tenders. We can do all that kind of functionality. or you may be looking to do that kind of upstream and downstream integrated process all in one. And that's where, through our kind of parent company, ESCA, we allow us to provide that offering across both sides of the upstream, downstream
I think if I can add to that just before the demo as well, with the with that kind of first step into digital transformation, we work with companies of all sizes, kind of mid to large scale enterprises, and it always is interesting how what those degrees of maturity are within those organizations. It's not one size fits all. A lot of large enterprises have what you deem as lower level of appreciation for sourcing and the digitalization of that. And we work with a lot of companies that already have systems in place as well. So it's not a kind of, okay, we're starting on this journey. We're already bedded into this journey. And it's the complementary tools that essentially offer kind of I don't like the term, but the best of breed model, where you can plug and play, you can integrate these systems into it and still deliver value. We know a lot of the pain points, and Lewis hears this on a daily basis, in regards to kind of adoption and actually driving that implementation across the organizations. And that's where we kind of cut through the noise a little bit and see some really strong traction.
Yeah, cool. And not only that, but I feel like it's adaptable, right? Because in ERPs, like a lot of the ERPs out on the market, it's good for purchasing, for P2P, for the classic buying journey on the day-to-day. But then when you want to get more strategic, you necessarily need to think about that digital strategy for those other functions of your procurement team.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Let's get into the system. It's probably what people really want to see. So first thing, putting a bit of pressure on myself here, but I think I should be okay. I'm going to show you how I could create an auction in literally a matter of minutes. So let's go with that. Again, that's representative of that tactical approach. You may be sat there at the moment with 3 or 4 quotes on your desk, and you think actually an auction might work really well. So let me jump into the platform and show you this. So it's going into our sandpit. You could do this if you wanted to just now, but I'm just going to click a few buttons and probably go quite quiet just so I'm clicking through.
Yeah, we're saying people could follow along if they wanted to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what am I buying? An overview of my requirements. I'm typing out something, let me down. Then I'm going to tick the box, have an auction, my currency, when do I want this auction to start, what type of auction am I running, my duration, my automatic extension period, my bid parameters. Okay, I'm good. I can attach some documents if I want to. I'm not going to in this case. Maybe I've already run that RFQ, so it's just the extension of that process. I'll buy some laptops, maybe 450 of them. I'm going to put my unit of measure in, put my current price, budget price, target price, to not shown to the suppliers. Maybe I'll just add a second lot for my accessories. Okay, that's it. Again, we have an excellent integration if you've got a lot of items, but we'll keep going. Do I want to have anyone in the organization to have visibility of this? Maybe it's my stakeholder. I can add those to the auction in this case. And if I want to invite some suppliers in the sandpit, I can just invite my dummy suppliers. In the live area, all you would need is an email address. So we don't have a kind of complex supplier setup process. It's email address. I hit that button, and my auction is now live. I think that was less than.
And that while it's going live, Lewis, the question I had was around that, right? Like if I'm able to sign up really quickly for free, etc. Like you're saying, I only need an email address from my supplier to be able to invite them to the event. So I really don't need any connection with my P2P system. But I imagine that if I'm scaling this thing, right, I'm going to start to want to look at integration with like my material or my vendor masters in my backend system, right, and being able to make that link between what did we actually buy from a P2P standpoint and what did we source, and being able to have that single unique identifier of a supplier over the value chain.
Yeah, I can ask where the kind of ESCA integration then kind of plays into that field, let's say. Again, on the next piece, I'm going to show you a bit around automation and even putting through suppliers. That might be from a preferred supplier list as an example. But yeah, obviously this is tactical standalone. Probably no different to maybe using an email to run a quotation, which a lot of people are still doing despite having tools. So I don't think the technology should be a reason that you're not running digital procurement exercises, whether that's an RFQ or an auction.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to come off this one now and go to more of the complex side of it, which is around automation. And I can also show off the kind of source to pay downstream part of the process after as well. So this is quite new functionality for us. It's probably been live for a couple of weeks now. But what it's allowing users to do is essentially really, really speed up the process to build a sourcing event. It's going to build compliance into the process. It's going to deliver a more standardized approach and hopefully a more kind of compliant approach as well. So I'll touch on some examples. So I'm just going to build a new event here. I'm going to say I want to create it by automation, and I'll kind of show you how this works. So I might say, okay, I've got these fields I'm selecting are unique to each organization. So don't think you have to have these ones, but I've got medium risk and medium spend level. That's a template that is saying I need to use. Within that template, the documents can be preloaded, the questions can be preloaded, any scoring or weighting can be preloaded. And I might say, oh, actually, but this category is IT, and you can see it's going to then jump and choose the IT indirect template because there's an information security questionnaire we're going to want the vendors to go through instead. If I cancel that down, the other thing I wanted to show is actually how then we can do that from within the kind of event itself. So I'm going to go through a little bit more detail here. So I'm just going to launch up my template. Again, same thing I just went through in terms of the auction, but I'm going to select my custom fields. So examples I've seen of this or conversations I've had with clients. Some clients have made a commitment to doing sustainable sourcing, and therefore they need to ensure that the right ESG weighting is being selected for the right tender. And so you could do this. I know in certain geographies you have a kind of necessity to involve diverse supply base. So you might say, okay, I want to pull diverse suppliers through and everything else that might come with it. The example I'm going to show you is more of a operational example for buying fuel. And it's actually a company that we developed this functionality with. So I just selected my tanks. I'm then going to say, okay, I want to generate my questionnaire. So I've got a questionnaire that is linked to the tank. So obviously all that logic is built up in the background. I hit that button, it's then going to pull through my specification specific to what I want. I've got my RFQ preloaded with my currency exchange rates, so we can do multi-currency. And I'm going to navigate through to the next point. This is where I can pull through my documentation. So again, this could be preloaded, but no standard terms of service. But I click on that button, it's going to pull through my specification document, again, relevant to my tank.
It's all based on that input at the beginning, right?
Yeah, so that tank 1 and 2 is basically driven what we're now seeing. So it's pulled through this very basic questionnaire, but you can capture obviously more than just the price in this system, RFI, RFP, scoring, weighting, multi-scoring. This is quite neat. So it's pulled through my tanks that are linked to tank 1 and tank 2, which is nice. So it's all got it in the kind of format that I want to have it in. I didn't know this, but when you buy fuel, the temperature has a difference in terms of how much they're going to deliver to you. So we can even do quite funky calculations in here. I'm not expecting any mathematician to know what that's referring to, but more than just a price, kind of transformational bidding, that kind of aspect can also be pulled into these lots so that we can handle the complex if you need us to.
Oh, and I've seen that a lot for for other types of commodities where there's a way in, way out, and the temperature can have or the humidity can have an impact on the final price as well.
Yeah, we've got a fair few chemists in our development team, and they knew all about it, but I was oblivious. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll take your word for it. And then the final bit, and this is where I think it can be really neat, is I've also got a supplier database that is linked to those particular tags that I've got. So I can then pull through, and the suppliers that relate to tank 1 and 2 should then populate based on the event that I'm having. I'd say that, and it's not worked unfortunately in this case.
And one of the things, like at the beginning when you were doing the automatic generation of the event, like one of my head went straight to, okay, so if I'm a smaller shop, like from a procurement standpoint, we have a smaller procurement team, we can invest in like putting together templates or logic or how they should run their standard events with templates, and then be able to delegate that sort of stuff to the business, right? Make them autonomous and then following best practices, right?
I'm checking you having this conversation earlier, John, in the sense of like it can help with the strategic sourcing, the really complex templates and putting through the right one, and that sustainable sourcing commitment, as I've mentioned. But yeah, maybe actually it can help with the tail. If as a user, I'd need to say, well, what am I buying and what's the spend threshold? Bang, it builds the pricing as you want it. It invites the right suppliers to it. You hit a button to go live. It's going to take a minute or two to build it. You're controlling that spend within the preferred vendor list.
And you have visibility over it, right? As it's coming in, you can see it centrally as well, right?
Yeah. So I'm just going to jump into my other demo account just because I've got one preloaded.
No, just on that as well, Joel, just your question in terms of the templates and presetting that up, because of the nature of Market Dojo's been doing this for some time and seeing some great success with the customer base. We've got a really deep template library that will support that as well. Okay. So it's that, again, going back to that maturity message, is if procurement's in a position where they're not super comfortable in a certain field, certain category, from a compliance standpoint, from a regularity perspective, we've got those templates kind of baked in. We've also got, and apologies, Louis, if you were going to showcase this, but the AI questionnaire as well, which is a new investment. Obviously, we shouldn't be here today if we didn't use AI as a buzz term every 5 seconds in this day and age. But we have AI, and it's that ability to type in. It's generative AI that you'll put in your parameters, and it will recognize the right questions, the right formats, and bake that into your tenders as well.
Cool, because I've seen that as like a barrier to adoption as well, right? It's like, I know I could benefit as a one-man procurement band or a small shop, right, from these sourcing tools, but there's a barrier to entry in terms of generating that content and being able to make the business autonomous, right? So if you're saying there's a template library which I can pull from and make a couple tweaks instead of starting from a blank page, that's fairly powerful as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people use the kind of import-export functions as well in Excel. People still love a spreadsheet, don't they? So that's all. We cover for all basics, really.
Very cool. Sorry, Lewis, I know we're getting off.
It's all interesting and valuable, so no need to apologize. So yeah, just tying this off now, last part of the demo. So that's those tanks that I just ran, kind of preloaded, so I can see now the information, how that's come back. I can drill out to see in this, so whatever that might be. But what I'm wanting to show you is the integration now. So I can kind of do a bit of a cherry picking to say, well, what does it look like if I give it to this supplier or that supplier kind of situation? And then this is where I can then start integrating that with the ESCA downstream process. So I can turn that sourcing event into a purchase rec, go into the ESCA product, and then go through the kind of approval and cost center information, whatever you might need to do to get that purchase requisition put through to a purchase order. Or actually, we have the kind of two-way there. You can start from the purchase requisition, turn that into a sourcing event, run it, push it back into a purchase order, and you're good to go on that side of things.
Cool. And I imagine like Esker's got that native integration since it's it's part of your suite. But you
it's one of the first things they did actually after acquiring this, and rightly so, because it allows us to offer this functionality.
Very cool. Very cool. And so I think for me, it leads to other questions as well, right? Which are along the same vein. And maybe what we could do is bring up the slide here around the ProcureTech Cup market map, just to give folks a sense of, we focused a lot on sourcing, and you gave us a little hint of operational purchasing or P2P at the end there with the Esker suite. But yeah, could you walk us through maybe just how Market Dojo is thinking about their product, their roadmap, their partnerships, and how you fit into a wider digital procurement strategy?
Sure. Yeah. So I think we've kind of, so I've been a part of that transformation. It's been quite interesting. So having gone from purely sourcing to more source to contract and now source to pay, we are still very focused on the upstream is probably what I'd say. Esker have the downstream bit done, right? We're two separate companies, but have that integration. So supplier onboarding is a really big thing for us. We do things quite innovatively there around kind of actually quite similar to the automation I've just shown you, but more of a risk-based approach to onboarding, where you might want to bring in risk or region or category or spend level and drive a different path with those suppliers. Not only the information that they get and fill out, but then also how that comes back to your organization to say, well, high spend, high risk IT, 6 different pairs of eyes need to be on that. Low spend, low risk, one-time vendor. We as procurement can sign that off. So that's a big thing for us. Integrations is another big thing for us. We kind of have that ecosystem. So there are other procurement platform providers that we already partner with, some that are coming down the line, which we're really excited about, and just really complementing that source to contract landscape and where we can play in that.
Is there any name dropping allowed?
Yeah, sure. So we already do it with Spend HQ, or we Focal Point, I think, is going live this weekend. So that's part of the press. And Viridian, who I think are part of this process in a few weeks' time, we're actively working on that. So yeah, there's some fun and exciting things coming in that space.
And
Plus,
I see that
the SAP integration as well. Sorry.
You're true. Yeah, I should have got that. Yeah, for doing that supply onboarding side of it, putting that into the SAP kind of environment is coming in the next couple of weeks as well. So it's been a busy time for integrations, but I think it's the market demand, and it's great that we can respond to the market demand.
And when you say
time
SAP,
for the dev team.
Go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, Joel. I just said busy time for the dev team.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about integration, right? For anybody who's run any of these ProcureTech projects, like that's where all the time and cost can go if you're not careful and purposeful about how you integrate, right? So the more work you can do on the software side to provide those ready-made integrations with systems, I think it's just a bonus for customers and an incentive to look at your solution more deeply, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, I think it gives us a good overview of what you guys are doing here. And based on the names you told me, like Spend HQ, I see really, coming in and being complementary on the spend analysis side and procurement performance management, Viridian on the supplier data side, and Focal Point on the intake management process orchestration layer. So we see kind of how you're covering your bases as well from that, in the entire market map. So I think it makes a lot of sense to me in terms of where you guys are heading. One of the last questions that I had, and then we can turn it over to folks on the live if there are any questions, is, we saw the demo from the buyer experience, but then the supplier experience, you sort of touched on a little bit, Lewis, but can you walk us through, at least verbally, like what's their experience once we launch that auction or that RFP?
Yeah. So I would say we've never delivered supplier training, which is probably a good testament again to how that product works. So the registration process takes about 1 minute for a supplier. They put in 6 boxes of information. They see an invite, they accept it, and that tabular structure I walked through in terms of creation, they see the same thing. So here's your questionnaire. There's a red X, and they haven't done that. Here's your RFQ. There's a red X. It goes green once you've submitted. But again, that's also where the support can really come into its own, in the sense if they do have queries, 10 seconds, they'll start getting some help and they can get navigated through.
Very cool. And I imagine, there's Excel as well, right? They can download to Excel and fill it out if they want to.
Yeah, for the questionnaire and for the RFQ side of it, yeah.
Cool. Because one of the things that, like, after, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Well, Joe, I was just going to say, yeah, we're investing in the kind of collaboration functionality there as well, so that it's not just one point person in the supplier side. They can open it up to their teams, whether that's technical, finance, all departments, so that they can collaborate on that the tender.
Okay, cool. And like manage their users, so to speak, if they want to do it that way. And yeah, the reason I asked that question is because, over the years I've implemented quite a number of sourcing tools, and the usability is really like the key, I find, to being able to leverage it long term, right? If suppliers don't know where to go, don't know how to use it, and they're going to want to stick to email and Excel, and they're going to want to do that. So accepting that reality and playing along with it instead of trying to get them to do something completely different is kind of the I think the key to adoption on the supplier side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And we have one question here, which I'll pop up from Arjun. Thanks for watching and asking a question, Arjun. Is the solution also suitable for events with many SKUs, with many bid parameters, many suppliers bidding? If so, can you show or do something on award optimization functionality? And I actually had that thought when I was looking at your demo, right? Like, is there scenario modeling so that I can see different award scenarios?
We're not, I guess, one of those advanced sourcing optimization products out there, but I would say the price point's probably slightly different on those as well. But yeah, like 1,000 SKUs I've seen people do. We can do some degree of scenario modeling, in the sense you build it into the total. So what would a 70-30 split look like? What would a 50-50 split look like? But we're not like, show me the best supplier based on being 2 miles away from my location and all that kind of good optimization stuff. But we can do degrees of it.
Okay, so like more simple scenarios, like show me the if I've got 1,000 SKUs, show me the supplier that gives me the best price for each SKU type of thing.
Yeah, so by default, we get by line item, then by total, and you can do some kind of volume splitting.
By lot. Yeah.
And with the weighting as well, taken into account.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So I think that kind of does it. I think we're just about at time, and I got through it without making any martial art references, so that's pretty good. But I can end with one maybe. So if you want to get a black belt in sourcing, you know where to find it. And David, Lewis, thanks so much for coming on the show, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. And for folks watching, maybe you can let them know where to find you, where to find Market Dojo, where to get in touch.
Sure. Yeah. So head over to marketdojo.com. We've got the self-serve platform that you can get in. You can have a look at the tool yourself. We're obviously on call at any point to support you on your own digital transformation journey, no matter where you are. Our tools are licensed accordingly. We've got really clear, transparent pricing online. You can look at the packages. You can see which features and functionality are relevant to you. And we're here to support you on your journey. So, yeah, we look forward to engaging with you.
Thanks so much, guys. And for everybody who wants to follow along on the road to the ProcureTech Cup, you can sign up for the Pure Procurement newsletter that comes out every Sunday night, Eastern Time, to see the replays, the demos, and information on best practices around digital procurement trends, etc. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you, Joel.
Thanks, Joel. That was great.